Hi, Kristin Snowden.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kristin, and I am a licensed therapist here in the state of California. And most of my webinars cover just common to the more severe spectrum of relationship issues that we seem to be confronted with. And oh boy, are there a lot of them these days with the month after month of kind of COVID crisis, pressure cooker environment that we're all living in. That's maybe even bringing what was before COVID healthy-ish relationships and functioning-ish relationships. You put them in this pressure, long-term stress environment, and your not so beautiful parts come out, right? We're not our best over a long-term stress. Our brains get tired and exhausted, and we don't use our executive functioning skills when we're thinking about the best response, the best coping choice, the things that are going to meet my goals and values. So I just want to let everyone know out there, we're all exhausted, we're all struggling. You are not the only one. And part of the reason why I'm doing this webinar is just as a reminder to myself that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean into your loved ones. Many of you right now are chiming in because your primary partner is maybe not the one where you can ask for your needs to get met. There's been broken trust, there's been betrayal. You just don't know if they're a safe person. So this webinar is going to be focused on kind of exploring and examining what our needs are and how we need to ask for our needs to be met, and who are the safe people to be asking these needs to be met. But first, I just wanted to do what we call a shameless self-plug. Another content provider, director of sexandrelationshiphealing.com, Scott Brassard, and I have finally finished a book that we've been working on for quite some time. But basically, I don't identify as any particular addict of any kind, but I've worked in addiction recovery for over a decade. And I share a little bit about my story, that I came in thinking that I knew about addiction recovery because I had a master's in psychology and I took some classes in it, and I worked in some different fields of addiction recovery. And then I met Dr. Rob Weiss, and he kind of re-educated me in the world of his model for addiction recovery. And it didn't just change my professional trajectory, it changed my personal trajectory. And it really, the 12-step model, I was in a personal state where I was pushing back against religious constructs. I was pushing back. I was really badly hurt from loved ones. I was in a deep state of betrayal myself. So I wasn't ready to seek those kind of sources for help. And the 12 steps environment of recovery and the people who went to recovery meetings and the things that they were saying to me were all things that made sense to me in a time where life didn't make sense to me. So Scott and I created this book called Life Anonymous, The 12 Steps to Heal and Transform Your Life. Because basically I would talk to a lot of my clients and we joke that it's not just about abstaining from alcohol, or not just abstaining from drugs, or abstaining from overspending or overeating. The 12 steps gives you the framework to meet life on life's terms. And I was just joking with Tammy that in all the work that I've done, I find the most miserable people are the most controlling people, the people that try their best with well-meaning intentions, of course, for survival reasons, to control what is uncontrollable. I mean, we are living in a world surrounded by things that we can't control right now. And I did not personally have the skills to manage it. And so while I was, let's say, pretty high functioning, I wasn't using alcohol or drugs to numb my pain and my fear and the uncertainty of life. I was doing lots of other things like emotionally lashing out and acting out in different ways. So this book weaves in like a non-addict story of exploring the 12 steps. And then I invited Scott to come in and kind of educate on how addicts work the 12 steps, because we use the metaphor of kind of understanding that addiction and mental health disorders are on a spectrum, right? There's very severe, very life-threatening issues, and then there's issues that just kind of make life uncomfortable and that you need to kind of tweak them and work on them. So the metaphor that we use for that is maybe the equivalent of diabetes, right? Some people, if they don't get their diabetes in check, they're going to have limbs amputated. They'll die prematurely. And then there's some people on the other side of the spectrum that just maybe want to eat a healthier diet and just kind of lose a couple pounds. There's obviously going to be a very different journey for those two spectrums of people, right? When it's life or death, you can't veer off the path. And then when there's like, yeah, it would be nice if I could live a healthier lifestyle. It would be nice if I could get there, but your life or death isn't on the line. And Life Anonymous just kind of talks about both these extremes. We both embrace both sides, the side that can't veer from it, the addicts that if they go back to their old ways, it turns into darkness and bad things right away. And then the more higher functioning people, the way that you can approach these 12 steps to kind of just learn and grow and challenge yourself. We have exercises and really great, we've really incorporated a lot of the stuff that we've learned from our years in working in recovery, Scott too. And so I'm just trying to show examples of just exploring like your goals and values. This is part of the book. What do you love doing? And it just kind of is also just, so it's kind of, we talk at you and tell you stories, but then we also provide you an opportunity to sit back and learn more about yourself now that you have a different context of information from that. So, and here's the link. It's available now on Amazon. You can just search Life Anonymous, or my name too, Kristin Snowden, and I think it'll pop up. But I just wanted to invite everybody. It was meant, my intention was I wanted to be able, when I'm at my treatment center working, I could hand it to an addict and be able to help that person learn more about their journey towards recovery and what it really, really means. And then also be able to hand it over to someone who says they're just struggling with depression and anxiety, or a family member of any of these people that doesn't know how they can kind of work their own recovery, find their own peace, despite the storm that's going on around them. So we really wanted it to be applicable to all those different types of people. So,
And I love that you have this, and I have often said, that there are so many people that don't fit the addiction criteria, but could so benefit from, the guide map that I think a 12-step program provides. So I love that you've created something that is not addiction focused, but helps people grow and learn to find peace and serenity and all that. The emotionally lashing out. And I thought, wow, I know so many people who do that. And actually, unfortunately, I did that, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I didn't act out in my addiction, but I ended up making amends because, like it just was too much and I didn't choose correctly and, all of that kind of stuff. But I have a program where I know what I need to do to clean up the mess and the relationships are intact. And, so I did all of that. And how much better would we all be if we had tools to go, okay, this is where we're at, and here's how we can make, not just muddle through, but we can grow through,
right.
so I love that you've created this. And yes, I looked on Amazon before it was linked up and I couldn't find it. So I'm grateful now that you can actually
Yeah,
find it on
it's
Amazon.
there. It took
So
a while to get
yeah.
it uploaded. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to let everyone know all the stuff that I talk about in my webinars, understanding shame and how it shows up in your life, shame resiliency, developing empathy and compassion. Something that I'm also really into is operating in secure functioning. That's like if you didn't grow up in a secure family, and you didn't learn to turn towards people to get your needs met, and instead you kind of turn towards drugs or alcohol or sexually acting out or raging or manipulating to get your needs met, you can change your brain and change your patterns and change your behavior to perform and act in a secure functioning environment, to bring secure functioning to you and your life and your children and your family. And so I talk about things like that too. And I give you really practical tools about how to get there. I mean, Scott and I did pour our heart and soul into like, Scott's really, he's developed his own workbooks. I use a very specific curriculum for my treatment centers. So these are kind of time-tested exercises and applications that we find really resonate with people and really get to the heart of the matter. So I'm pretty proud of the work that's in it.
As you should be.
And so with further ado, and speaking of secure functioning, we're going to talk about what we call dependency needs. But really what it is doing very specific, purposeful work to dig up and say, okay, if I was surrounded by secure, functioning people who knew how to practice authentic, vulnerable connection with me, what would my needs be? Like, what would I ask to have met within myself? What does this body need for mental and emotional nourishment? And what do I need to ask others to get those needs met as well? Because I want you to understand, most of you chiming in, it's because you're in deep pain and struggle, as I mentioned before. So if you really stop and think about it, if I said, right now, ask for what do you need right now? What are 5 needs that you need mentally, physically from another person? What would that be? And a lot of you, your initial response would be, oh, hell no, I'm not going to ask anything. I'm an island. Every time I ask for my needs to be met, I get screwed. I've been betrayed. I've been hurt. So why would I ask for anyone to meet my needs? And again, if you've watched any of my attachment videos or anybody else's attachment videos, you've learned that pair bonding's okay. So meaning, Rob talks about that all the time. Loving other people and wanting them in your life is just as natural as breathing and seeing the sun outside. We are neurobiologically wired to want to connect with other people. And so this idea that we can just kind of become an island, I guess no pun intended with the picture behind me.
I was actually laughing about that. So.
So we want to be an island. I want to be on this island, and I want nobody to talk to me or ask me for anything right now. I'll be honest. But I need to remind myself that actually that is not what is going to make life meaningful to me. It may be for a moment, because let me caveat that and say there might be a moment that my neurobiology might need to step away from humans and just go find quiet. And that's a need that I can meet on my own. I might need to go walk out in nature. Tammy talks about how healing her nature walks are with her dog. That's a need that she is determined, like calms her neurobiology, gets her back into the right state of mind. And that is a great boundary and a dependency need that she's learned to meet on her own. And that's awesome. But we also have mirror neurons where we all have the powers of good and evil to be able to down-regulate someone with a state of calmness, eye contact, safe body language, etc. Or we have the powers to stir someone's stuff up by arguing, using really big, scary language, body language, really scary tones of voice. And I can rev up or rev down your neurobiology. But it is not a bad thing to ask for your needs to be met from other people. So let's just talk about this. Is as you're entering the holidays and we're going on month 9 or 10, I don't even know. Is it October? I've lost track.
I know.
Our needs are real, and we need to make sure to be very explicit about asking for these needs to be met. So I'm going to take it this time to invite you to, maybe if you have paper or pen in front of you, to go ahead and write it down. But just start thinking about, what are some needs that you had when you were a child that maybe didn't get met? When you look back and think back as a child, maybe I really needed someone to hug and kiss me, and I just didn't have parents that would do that. I didn't see affection. Or I really needed my mom or dad to say, it's okay that you go off and you go engage in these hobbies. I don't need you that much. Some of you had to kind of be the parent in the family, and it wasn't an option for you to kind of be selfish and go run off and go figure out what your needs and your passions are. Some of you needed to be allowed to emote all of your feelings, right? So maybe not just anger, or maybe not just sarcasm or happiness, but confusion and sadness and hurt. So think about that for a little while. Did you need to feel safe because you didn't feel safe? Did you need to feel stability? Did you need your family or members around you to be very explicit about what was going on because you didn't always understand what was going on? So think about that for a little bit. And then take a moment to list 5 or more dependency needs that you feel like you need now in your adulthood. So let me throw some stuff out at you. Maybe some honesty and integrity. Maybe you're struggling with people around you kind of saying what they mean and mean what they say. I was just doing a betrayed partners workshop, and this comes up in a coupleship a lot. Whereas I'd rather just hear the truth, even though the truth might piss me off, but the truth shall set us both free. I'm just tired of the lies. One saying I heard that I loved is, your partner's more likely to leave you not for what you've done, but for the lies that you tell all around that issue. It's all about the lies. People don't like being lied to. Yet at the same time, such a common marital conflict that I see is people just going, well, I don't really want to stir things up. I don't want to get in an argument. I don't want to upset him or her. So I'm just going to kind of nod to their face and say, yeah, I totally agree with you. Or yeah, sure, that's a great plan. And then go around their back and just do it the way I want to do it. And then be really surprised when that person's ragefully angry, even more so than if you just had a real conversation with them where you just said, I know that's what you want. I know that's what you feel strongly about, but I disagree with you. And I disagree for these reasons. And I think that I need to behave or engage in this X, Y, and Z, despite how much you don't like it. So sometimes we just need honesty. Sometimes we need connection, right? Acceptance, literal affection, physical touch, communication, respect, safety. Some of you just want to be seen and known. Some of you want, gosh, a common thing I see is you just want to see your partner be as willing to engage in the recovery and the healing process as much as you want to. That's what I've been seeing so much lately. And my heart breaks, because I know that feeling where you're just like, look, if he or she just read these articles, just attended these meetings, just started really seeing, really understanding what was going on, then this whole thing would change. We don't have to live like this anymore. And I know that yearning and just that, just please, God, just do the work. So some of that's a dependency need. You want to see them have that big enough drive in you. Peace. Some of you are at the phase where you just want to stop arguing. You just want harmony kind of at all costs. That's okay. There's a season for that too. Sometimes you don't want to have all the big explosive elephant in the room, uncomfortable conversations. You want to have a couple nights of just peace and quiet, and that's okay to ask for that, as long as you eventually get to the uncomfortable stuff again. Physical well-being, you just maybe need the space and the time and the validation to go get your needs met, to go work out, to go to sleep on time, to go for walks, etc. Autonomy, freedom of choice, independence, spontaneity. There's not much spontaneity going on these days, but maybe eventually you need that. But so these are really important things for you to explore, because dependency needs are going to be a symptom of the healing process. And by the way, the next thing that you need to be asking is, who can I ask to get some of these needs met? Because the important thing is that right now, many of you do not want to be asking your primary partner to meet these needs. Maybe you don't trust them. Maybe they haven't gotten full recovery. You might want to still attempt to ask them these things, just so you can say, because sometimes we write the story in our head. There's no way, if I asked him to go to couples therapy, he's going to say no. He's said no so many times before. But I think it never hurts to just say, I really struggle to see that you can buy a new car, or you can buy all these gifts for Christmas, but really, I want to spend that money on couples therapy. Like, we have so much hurt and pain in our history. I want a safe space and a professionally navigated space with a professional who's trained to help us talk about the stuff that still hurts me and torments me and contributes to, still today, our couple problems. So I always say, I'd rather have the conversation over and over again, ad nauseum, to see if maybe today's the season, today's the time where they're like, okay, fine. Because you'd be surprised. I know people that, the first year is no, the second year is no, the third year is yes. So you just never know. And I always encourage, maybe I'm too much of an optimist these days, but someone's got to be, right?
Yes.
So, and if you explicitly continue to ask your primary partner for your needs to be met, and you continue to experience denial of it, or maybe they minimize or emotionally abuse you or mock these needs, whatever, then don't think that these needs are dumb, because they're not. They keep coming up for a reason. So you need to validate them yourself and say, okay, can I get these needs met in some other safe way that's aligned with my values and goals, right? So can I lean on a couple really safe, open people? And by the way, I don't mean like start an affair of your own because, your partner doesn't meet your needs. There's ways to handle that are still in line with your values and goals, but can you find some appropriate friends that you can talk about and that can hold space with you? This is, again, it's why I love 12 steps or support groups, because that is what it's supposed to be. They're just supposed to be there helping you meet life on life terms and kind of remind you of your end goals and your current values and goals, and keep you accountable. And maybe a little bit of honesty to kind of keep you on your toes and challenge you. So let me think what else. So other questions that I ask when we're exploring meeting dependency needs is, when I share something vulnerable or personal, I need people to, so meaning when I'm bold and courageous enough to ask for needs to get met, what do I need them to do? So do I need them to like make full eye contact with me when I'm talking about something really vulnerable? Or maybe I can't handle eye contact, so I need you to like not look at me when I ask for you to like go to couples therapy with me because I feel like our marriage isn't going the way I want it to go. Do I need them to ask me before they give me a hug or a kiss and say, can I want to hug or kiss you right now? Is that okay? Do I want them to give me space? Do I want them to respond right away from when I'm asking for a need to be met? Or do I want them to maybe just listen, stay quiet, tell me that they'll think about it, and maybe even validate me, say that they get it, they understand, maybe just listen and hear me. Um, and then you have to think about when you are having someone else ask for a need to be met from you, what do you feel like? So when someone shares something painful or personal with me, what comes up for you when other people ask for a need to be met? So do I worry about saying the wrong thing? Like worry about invalidating you? Do I want to say something comforting, but maybe I'm afraid I'm going to blow it? Do I get really nervous? Do I worry that I might not feel anything or feel the right thing? Do I want to just fix it and just say, fine, give me the bullet points, give me the give me the Cliff Note version and I'll get on that because I'm type A. Or do I want to just end the conversation and then avoid that person? So just a couple things to dig up and stir up how you experience asking other people to get your needs met and how you experience when people come to you to get needs met. As I've said in many of my other webinars, when we're talking about asking needs to be met, we're stirring up big shame voices and big uncomfortable vulnerability feelings, right? Making yourself exposed to say, this is what I want, this is what I need. Can you, another flawed human being, help me get this? Oh, that feels so uncomfortable. And then right behind that, or right up front before that, is who do you think you are? Asking for this need to be met. Like, come on, those are the only weak people need those things. Go get this met yourself. Go figure out the formula on your own and go do it yourself. Go be this island. Stop needing things, needing people. That's weakness, right? So you had to kind of rumble with those voices and acknowledge those as well. And I just, as a final note, I remember one therapist told me that engaging in relationship is one of the most obvious symptoms of someone who has mental health. And for a while, I thought about that and I was like, yeah, I guess, how do we measure who's healthy and who's not, right? Those are all such very vague words. But it's true when you look at someone who kind of has a meaningful, content life, it's often because they have the security and the flexibility and the safety of having just a few people around them, right? It doesn't have to be a warehouse full of them, but a few people around them where they can do this thing called life with these other people as witnesses. When the bad stuff happens, they have their community to kind of surround them and support them. And then they also go out and support those that they love when they're in times of trial. I think if we really took a minute to kind of look at society and think, okay, that looks healthy to me, that doesn't look healthy to me, it's usually the people who are able to have the community and ask for needs to be met and try their best to meet other people's needs and kind of do that with boundaries, right? And do that safe but uncomfortable rumbling with the vulnerability and shame that's involved in those pieces. So I'd encourage you to, get started on that. Yeah.
So we are open to questions. If you have questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, we invite you to put, questions for Kristin in that space.
And I think while we wait for the questions to come in, it brought up another point, which again, I think is Rob's big point, about the prodependence versus codependence, right? When we start talking about asking our loved ones to meet needs, I always, without fail, in my groups, they'll be like, well, isn't that codependence? Isn't that bad? If I say I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And the whole point of codependence is that loving someone and engaging relationship with another person, that's not codependent. You have to, the big point is, are you trying to get these needs met in a manipulative kind of way, right? Is where it starts getting unhealthy. So there's a difference between, let's say for a betrayed partner who really wants their husband to do your guys' workshop, to be like, it would be very meaningful to me to know that you're weekly meeting and working on your steps in this environment, and it would help me feel safe. Versus, you could probably say that in a little bit more of a manipulative way, or you could rage and maybe not be very clear about that. And then when he doesn't do it, you kind of start stomping around and not really realizing how important that was to you, and that you maybe didn't convey it as clearly, that you needed him to be in a step workshop of some kind, making movement in that particular way. And he didn't realize that, and you didn't realize that.
Well, and even if the partner is abundantly clear, they're dealing with somebody who's broken, and and may not be able to, they may not be able to step into that space yet. So it's kind of like you're talking about the not this year, not that year, but this year might be, so I agree, continuing to ask. I've found myself too going, here's some things I need help with. Are you able to do any of these things?
Mhm.
And having the list,
Mm.
and people can kind of pick, and then they're, like they're stepping into the space and they're helping, but I'm also not like it's an invitation of, for me, that's worked on some level. Now that's very different of like a list of chores type of thing to do, versus I really need for my safety for you to do this. I've had a number of partners, where we've talked about, approaching someone and saying, I care about you deeply, and so it isn't the you're doing this bad, 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 bad. It's like, I care about you deeply, and it's so painful for me to watch you, spiral down and to hurt, yourself and our family and our relationships and all of that type of thing. And I would, I want to support you, and here's what I see as some options for you to get, help
Mhm.
to do things differently. And again, that's a reframing of things, that could be more codependent, but can be a softer, yeah, because as addicts we all want to dig our heels in and stomp around and blame shift and all of those other things. But if somebody's coming to me and going, I really am, I'm concerned about you, I care about you, I'm more able, hopefully, to hear the message. So we do have a question. I gave my husband and his CSAT my needs list, giving history of why to each one of for his therapist, married 40 years and separated due to his lying. One of my needs is talk with his CSAT and him, new CSAT for 5 months, once a month for updates, validate his sobriety and what he says, and express concerns in his drinking or anger. In, in the last 4 years, lied in the last 4 therapists and relapses. He says I can't talk with her because he does not trust me to tell her what to do, and his therapy has nothing to do with me. I disagree. He canceled couples therapy, which I think because she talked with his therapist about how he cuss at me in sessions, telling me he wants um me to hurt by what he says. He has not met many needs, such as initiating transparency and change behaviors. I am struggling with how to handle this. Please help me with what boundaries should I put in place. His need is for me to be physical with him, like a hug. I do not feel safe, and I do not trust him, and I can feel the distrust in my body feels. And now he's angry with me. He says he wants his needs met, but does not meet my needs, and I have around his sobriety, financial stability, emotional safety. So that is so painful. I'm so glad you're here, but I am so sorry that you're stating clearly your needs and he's tromping all over them. So Kristin, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
I think you're going to hear different opinions about who talks to whom when it comes to recovery. I personally, because of betrayal trauma and so much dishonesty, I I'm supportive of the betrayed partner going into the betraying, the sex addicts therapy sessions occasionally. Or better yet, the CSAT community is so small that often therapists know each other. And so there's been times that I will so I will see the betrayed partner, and I will get a release of information to talk to the sex addicts therapist with an understanding that, if I hear anything that's concerning, that I would help the betrayed partner kind of know that someone is talking, asking the questions, kind of sharing some of what's going on for her, sharing her side of the story with the therapist. And we're kind of doing it up here, but still keeping the sanctity and like confidentiality of the therapist client relationship confidential and kind of separate. So go ahead.
Well, I'm what I'm reading is that there, like you said, there needs to be a release, and what I'm reading is he's not willing to give the release of information.
Yeah.
So he's completely keeping you out of the loop. This has got nothing to do with the therapist, from what I'm reading. I could be reading it wrong, but this is all about him. And so he isn't in, from what I'm reading, stepping into doing anything to create safety. So I understand why your body would not want to hug him. I
Right.
understand why you would be separated, and why would you want to reunite with him when he's not making any progress. Now, I don't know what state you're in, doesn't matter. Some therapists, though they don't have a release of information to talk to you, they can hear anything. So you can write to the CSAT and say, here's what's happening. So the information can go to the therapist, even if the therapist doesn't have a release of information to be able to talk to you or to have you in session. But
Yeah.
he's the gatekeeper on that. If he doesn't sign a release, then you cannot be in the session. That's,
Yeah.
so.
And me as a therapist, like I've had a time where, because it's often where I'll be seeing a betrayed partner, there'll be a couples therapist, and then there'll be an individual therapist for the sex addict. Um, and so even if there's not a release on this sex addiction therapist side, if I have a release to call on behalf of my betrayed partner, like you said, I have permission to release my information to this therapist, and I can just leave a voicemail. That person doesn't even need to acknowledge that they're a client, and I can just say, hey, it's my understanding you're seeing so and so. I just want to let you know that he failed a polygraph recently, over the issue of him starting to smoke pot again. And I just thought that you'd want to know that, and just give him heads up, because quite frankly, a sex addict therapist isn't going to be wanting to be lied to and kind of manipulated. And they appreciate hearing the truth about what's going on, as long as it's in the parameters of confidentiality. So,
Yeah, but I mean, this is a really sad case, because and we talk all the time about the acting out behavior is a symptom of underlying issues, and all of those things that that Kristin's talking about with the book. It's like, if we don't have tools to deal with life on life's terms, from the get-go. You've been married 40 years. Uh, let's say he's 60. He's probably been dissociating and doing some maladaptive behavior for 50 years or more. This is old stuff. So if he's going to continue this pattern, yeah, you said validate his sobriety. If he's acting like this, I mean, there's the not acting out, and then there's sobriety and recovery.
right.
And in sobriety and recovery, you see meaningful changes. So sorry. You see meaningful changes for people, because they're growing and learning to do things differently. That's what we learn when we're doing the 12 steps. If it was just about stopping the behavior, I would be I would have relapsed. Yeah, I would be a miserable, horrible person. I mean, I couldn't deal with life, so I needed people to teach me how to do things differently. So I'm really sorry. Trust your
Yeah.
gut. What I also don't hear is I hear that you were trying to do some couples work, but I don't hear that you've got support for, I'm glad you're here, but I don't hear that you have support for you as a betrayed partner. So I'm going to give a little plug on behalf of Kristin Snowden. She mentioned she does betrayed partner. She's got, um, uh, you're into your second one now, right? The
I think
betrayed
it's our
partner group.
third one, but yeah, we're going
Okay.
to form one in 2021. So you'll have to
Okay.
check my website.
Yes. Yes. So Kristin Snowden, KristinSnowden.com. You go to her site, but she does betrayed partner support groups, and I've heard from somebody who joined one, that they just were positively impacted from the support there. So we love that you're here. We've got a betrayed partner drop-in group at
Right.
12:30 Wednesdays Pacific time, and then tomorrow morning we've got a new one that started at 8:30 in the morning Pacific time. So
Right.
join all of those, get all the support you can. But but when your body is physically telling you this isn't safe, it's not safe.
Right.
So.
And you got to down regulate that somewhere, and it's not going to be with him. So you need to go to a group of people who you've deemed safe, and that hopefully can help you down regulate that really upregulated, anxious, unsafe body. Like it's not going to just dissipate. It's you have to do work to down regulate that.
Right, right.
So
And there's support for that. So, next question. When a person shuts down on talking to you and working through your issues, is that when you give up?
I can never answer whether or not it's time for you to give up. But we are talking a lot about body, right? If your body is constantly in a state of fatigue, in a state of unsafety, if let's say you have children and you find yourself unable to serve their needs or perform at work and all these other facets of your life because you continue to feel unsafe and shut down in a space with your partner, those might give you indications that something needs to change, right? I can't tell you what that would look like. Hopefully, you and your professional can kind of determine, or you going to a support group can help you determine the next safest steps forward. But I always say, listen to your body. Do you feel shut down?
Yeah, well, and I think it depends on the time frame. Recovery takes, it's a journey and it takes some time. But if you're seeing that he's, making some progress, even if it's painfully slow, then you kind of go, okay, there may be hope for this. I mentioned a little while ago, I have lots of people that say, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep watching, so I'm going to set safety boundaries for me, and they get bigger boundaries, and to keep you safe. And if the other person is willing to start stepping in and doing something different, then those boundaries change. So boundaries are flexible based on what the current situation is. But at some point, I mean, again, what Kristin said, you and your professional, but at some point, if you go, this is not changing, he's not stepping in any way, and it's been, years or whatever, is this something that you see yourself at the end of 2021? If we were a year from now, if it's the same as it is that, is that something you're
Right.
willing to do? I think that that's a fair question to ask. So.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, next question. When your partner sexually betrays you, is it okay for you to ask all the details about the experience, or can that be unhealthy? Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please, please, please. I am constantly dealing with, either the betrayer who has told their partner everything, because they want to finally be honest, and or the partner who is, and I understand you want to know,
Well, right, because
but
let's
you can't.
caveat that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so it could be how many prostitutes, or was it in the house or not, right? Like, a
Yes,
professional should help you navigate what are truly important questions to your
yes,
body to help you understand the whole picture of what we're talking about here,
right.
versus like you have to maybe explore the example I shared is like did she have big boobs, or did you have
Yes.
orgasms? And again, I'm not saying that is a negated question, but there should be additional questions of, will that make you feel safer to get that question answered? Will, and really exploring the why behind each
Right.
of those questions.
Having professional help, because you just asking questions and wanting all the details, I'm going to use heterosexual couple. He's going to tell you all the details, and you're going to be traumatized by that. And you can never get that stuff out of your head. You do deserve to know if it happened in your house. You do deserve to know if it happened with a family member or a good friend or whatever, because double betrayal. Like, there are some really key things you do need to know. Do I need to go get tested for an STD?
Right.
COVID, whatever, like all
Right.
of those things are really relevant and really important. Being guided in the process. I mean, it is during COVID, here's the calls I get. I just had discovery, and I've told her everything, or he's told me everything, and now they're trapped in a house together. It's horrible. And so there are
My
ways.
neurobiology goes up when you say that, and I'm
Yes,
not even
yes.
there in the
I know,
house.
my gut's clenching, and I'm just like, oh, I feel so bad about this. And you can never unhear or like the visuals. It's like it's an extra layer of trauma you have to dig out of. And so there are ways to get in a professionally guided therapeutic, hear the word, therapeutic disclosure. That's very different than, I
Which are
call them
specific
vomit disclosures.
questions, and
Yes.
vomit was a
Yes.
really good
Yes. Yeah.
differentiation.
Yeah. And
Relieve my guilt
really
disclosure.
my guilt,
Get her
or
off my
yes.
back
Yes.
disclosure.
Yes. Yes. So you deserve disclosure, but in a meaningful and helpful way. So next question. I have been trying to get my husband to meet emotional needs for a long time. He cannot deal with my emotions, gets angry whenever I try to enforce boundaries. I'm very direct. I've tried so many ways. He continually says that I'm just mad at everything at the drop of a dime. He says that I just want to fight about everything. If I bring anything up calmly or angry or whatever, these arguments escalate. Sometimes I get so frustrated, I lash out. Then he uses my mistakes to ask for, I assume, a divorce,
So
because it says
divorce.
ask for
Yeah.
D. Yeah.
So this is such a common cycle. And it's always like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like, so do I become a nagging, angry, furious person? And then that gives him rationalization to go sexually act out. Or what I find it is that I realize I've been getting gaslighted and kind of lied to and getting half truths for the majority of my relationship. And so my neurobiology feels so unsafe all the time. I mean, some of my popular webinars are on like betrayal trauma or the neurobiology of betrayal, because it really helps you put a name to what is going on in your body. And so it's really hard because the sex addict doesn't understand, I behave this way because you're not in recovery. And so let's use this example. They'll start recovery. So they will finally stop lying and stop living in the double life areas that they were in. But your neurobiology takes a lot longer to heal and kind of start registering that he or she's not lying to me, that this is the truth. I can kind of semi trust, but I need to verify. um, all of those are required, and that there's a long bridge gap between when someone's in recovery and works a really strong program, and then it leads to the betrayed partner actually being able to calm down their neurobiology and come from a calm place. And someone who's not in full recovery will look at that person being not calm, being angry, lashing out, and not come from a space of being like, oh, it's because we're talking about years of distrust, years of lying, and years of gaslighting. No, instead they go, see, I've changed and you've not changed. And this is just more evidence that this is all your fault, not mine. Um, this can be fixed. It usually comes with a lot of education, because do not ever underestimate the ability for the addict to compartmentalize and not question why you will be lashing out, and not realize that it contributes to the years and years of lying and deceit and minimization and all that kind of stuff. And so again, it's not like you need to blame it, say like, I'm screaming at you right now because you've been such a liar to me. Like, sure, maybe that argument fits for a while, but it's like, when you look at me that way, when you use that tone of voice, all I remember is the man or woman who lied and deceived and manipulated all the time. So my body is having a really hard time being here right now with you. So that's just, I mean, there could be entire webinars and couple sessions for moments like that.
And I would think of, and I was just talking to somebody earlier today about the Karpman drama triangle, Karpman drama triangle. And people get caught up in this, it's the same loop over and over again. And at some point, there's a realization of like, we can keep doing the same dance over and over and over again, or we can pick different tools to use to get us out of this same Groundhog Day loop, so that may be something, if the two of you are willing to get help together and find a therapist that works with that modality, can be useful too. So next question, we both go to therapy, great, separate and together. He has a CSAT. He keeps blaming the escalations on me. I'm open with my therapist and I express that I've lashed out physically. I just know where to go from here, or I just know where to go from here. If he gets past step 4, I kind of think so too. Like step 4, do you think there could be a change in his behavior? So a couple of questions. First of all, I'm not sure how long this has been going on. This sounds like really early recovery. As someone in recovery, when somebody hasn't done step 4 yet and they're a year into the process, I cringe. The first 9 steps are really the cleanup. So step 4, step 5 accompanies step 4, but really 1 through 9, particularly 4 through 9 are the cleanup. 10 through 12 are maintenance. So yes, he's still carrying around all the junk until he gets through step 4 and step 5. Those 2 steps really help start the process of reducing shame, and giving us the opportunity to clean up the foundation. For you, the lashing out physically, regardless, Dr. Rob talks about this all the time. Violence is never okay. For you, getting support so that you have a safe place to deal with the lashing out, like in that moment, go, I really want to lash out. What can I do differently? Taking 3 seconds and pausing and going, I'm going to go phone a friend, whatever you need to do. It's not okay for him to blame, but it's not okay for you to lash out physically. And I can tell that, you aren't like thrilled that you do that because you're writing about it here. So Kristin, what are your thoughts?
No, it's exactly that. I always say for betrayed partners, you are already in so much shame, right? Because the acts of your partner are so shaming and so degrading, and so makes you have that shame voice of I'm valueless or whatever. Your reactions to him or her, it needs to be whatever lets you sleep with yourself at night, right? Because already you're coming from a deficit of like fighting off those shame voices that you are valuable. This is his crap, not mine. But then when you physically act out and do something in a way that you normally wouldn't under circumstances, those shame voices attack at you again and go, see, more evidence.
Mhm.
So you really, that's the part that you have to clean up on your side of the street is, and also again, that's why I encourage the understanding of that neurobiology. I talk about that polyvagal system, understanding when you're in that sympathetic, agitated state where your good choices don't happen. They're not as readily available to you. And so you have to do a lot of work to kind of keep yourself in a safe space. And that might mean literal space from him,
Yes.
because he's obviously very instigating right now.
Yes. Well, and I've shared this before too, that the Serenity Prayer, like I have said that as a mantra, like for me in that situation, walking away and saying the Serenity Prayer over and over again. And I use the, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And that's everything outside of me, the courage to change the things I can, me, my actions, my reactions. Like I'm talking to myself through that, and I'll say it over and over and over again. And that physiological, I can calm down and go like, I don't have this, but I at least know that I have a moment, and I can choose to not, engage and step into the combative that I want to, but the rage, rage is a really powerful emotion, and it's so easy to tap into that instead of feeling hurt. And so it's one of those, I invite you to find soothing things for you. So, and we got another question.
Yeah,
So
it's the same
um,
person question.
yeah. Can you talk about the similarities and differences between infidelity and sex addiction? The infidelity was a multi-year sex and emotional affair, and talking about treatment, really. So we have a treatment center for men with sex addiction, intimacy disorders, and you can call emotional affairs. Uh, if it's compulsive behavior, if it's cheating and lying, that's an intimacy disorder. And
Right.
so we look all of
It's a
that though.
spectrum, right? There's people like for alcoholism, all they do is just once every couple weeks binge drink to blackout
Yes.
level, and then they don't
Yeah.
touch it again for 3 more weeks. And
Yes.
then there's people who are regularly every night needing to pour a drink. And that's actually
Yes.
what My Life Anonymous talks about, as we talk about this huge spectrum between what we've deemed as addiction and then just what's not working for us.
Right.
But it all's not working for us.
Right.
So
It's lying and cheating, and
yeah,
it's betraying you. I mean, so
manipulative, it's
whatever
shaming, it's yeah,
label gets put on it, it's still, you're a betrayed partner. It was, he didn't show up for you. He had other choices. He could have said, like, I feel like you're spending too much time with the children and I'm feeling ignored. Fine, like you can go, okay, let's schedule a date. He chose to go somewhere else and do something else. So regardless of what label gets put on it, at our treatment programs, Seeking Integrity Los Angeles, we're looking at the underlying issues. What we want to stop the behavior, but we want to address why. And it's abandonment, neglect, abuse, trauma, grief, loss. I mean, there's something, where we're asking for needs to be met in a healthy way, usually from a very early age was not permitted. So that's, I wouldn't, there's lots of resources. We've got bunches on uh, on sexandrelationshiphealing.com and bunches on Seeking Integrity. We've got men's
yeah.
sex addiction, porn addiction 101 work group. We've got a couples group starting again in January. So lots of resources on there. So are you taking on new clients? This is for you, I assume, or do you do consultations before bookings to see if it's a good fit for a client? So she's licensed in California. So
Yeah.
you have to be
Yeah,
in
and I
California.
am pretty full right now, so I don't know if that person's in California or not,
But if
but
you're a
that is
betrayed
why I do
partner,
things like this. Right. There is
mhm,
the workshops, that's true. There's workshops. I know that's the way I've tried to be more available to more people
mhm,
because the need is high. But yeah, that's why I participate in things like sexandrelationshiphealing.com, because there are so many people that have needs. She's in our area. So Tammy also, I often send people to Tammy because she has a wide network of people that she's deemed appropriate and trained appropriately to handle clients like this. Um, the ear, nose, and throat specialists, so to
yes,
speak, right? That
exactly.
meet the
Yes.
needs of this particular
Yeah.
type of clientele. And so I often send them to Tammy to see if they have referrals in this area.
So check out KristinSnowden.com for Betrayed Partner group that will start again in January. But you can also email me, Tammy, Taami, at seekingintegrity.com if you are looking for a specific resource. If you are, because you may be watching this on YouTube too, let me know where you're located, if you're looking for help with addiction, or if you're looking for help as a betrayed partner. So be clear on that, and I can best help you. We've got lots of resources though on our sites too. So we are out of time. As always, Kristin, so grateful for you. One of the things I want you to all take away from this is Kristin's new book. So I'm going to shamelessly plug, as you put it,
Yeah.
Life Anonymous. Check it out on Amazon. I will be. So so proud of you, so grateful. And gosh, we get to start 2021 probably during COVID, but with hopefully more resources too.
Yes,
So
I will see you all in 2021,
all
whatever may
right.
come of that.
Yes, exactly. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.